Okay, good morning, sisters and brothers. We're back for another video. Um, Not sure completely all that we're going to discuss. Going to be a wide range of topics, and we'll do it in a series of videos. I think is how I'm going to do it. That's just the way that I'm looking at doing things because I seem to have changed the way that I'm motivated to do things. Um, we had an incident take place within my family, so I needed to take a little bit of personal time. And in that time frame, though I kept studying, I kind of thought, well, I don't really feel like making videos, and I needed to de-stress from things, and it felt good to do that. And so I started looking at it again and studying, and I said, well, I'm gonna put a video up, I think today. And so first of all, we're going to discuss these topics. The topic of a God. The problem with dismantling religion for most people is they're left standing going, oh, okay, well, then I don't believe in God. There's no such thing as God. And that seems to be what I'm picking up on a lot, when I scroll through different people's videos, is that when they've washed their hands of this religion, that means all religions of the world, they walk away going, there's no such thing as God, no such thing. Or they walk away from the religion's narrative of God going, no, he is still God, he still exists, or Jesus is God. I just don't believe in the way that they taught it, right? So you come away with those two things, and then you come away with those in the middle ground here going, okay, well, now where do I really stand on this? Do I believe in a God or do I not believe in the existence of a higher power? And so for me, and it's subject to change, as you grow in life and you understand more in life. And that's the problem with this world. And I was guilty of this myself. So we'll also look at instant answers, I was raised in a world that propaganda taught us this, and Hollywood was one of the big ways that it taught it to us. That, there's always going to be, when somebody asks you this big question or even a small question, you're going to have the perfect little answer tied up with a neat little bow. And if there's one thing that life has taught me, is that you don't always have an immediate answer or what you think on a topic, but people seems to think you have to have one immediately. Well, I can tell you this, it's taken me a lifetime to understand or to reason out what the answers might be to some of those questions that Hollywood and movies would portray. Well, this person was asked this deep question where they had to give deep insights, and they had it. Like 2 minutes, they had it. And what a grand answer. And so you would sometimes adopt their narratives, their answers, this person's answers. You've heard that one. Well, that sounds good. That's my answer. Instead of really going in and thinking and reasoning out what it is that your own mind thinks, your own spirit, emotional, all of those things, what they mean for you personally. But you'll let somebody else put an answer on the table and you'll take that answer instead of reasoning it out for fear of looking like, well, I don't have the answer right now. And if that's one thing life has taught me, it's taken me years to figure out what I've thought, what my thinking is on some topics. You don't always have an immediate answer. And I thought that that's what life was for. Figuring out what you believe. And the answers ain't always immediate. It is going to take 10 years. Yeah, 10 years, mind you, to figure out what it is you really believe. 15 years, a lifetime. That's what you gave this life for, you know. And so when you're looking at a young person who, pride is a big thing when you're young, isn't it? Pride's a big thing at any age. And I find that with some people, they don't want to wade in and get their hands dirty. Like, I've got to look perfect right now. I can't be muddied with maybe not looking so put together. And that's all my life has been. And I can tell you, in a world built by Baal, the god Baal, it's called a dung house, what you live in. You're not going to come away smelling pretty when you choose to wade into that and figure out what it is you really believe, or what it is that you were being taught and that got muddied and really messed up by the teachings of men who wanted power and nothing else. They didn't care about anything else. They didn't care about you. They cared about themselves. And that's part of what the topic is that we're going to look at, the topics that we're going to look at, and how this dialogue goes back and forth, and then how over time they develop the dialogue as if it was man with man, a male with a male, right? And totally shut out the voice of what we know as the creator. And what it indicates that creator, who, or the sex of the creator that seems to be speaking, when you're actually choosing to reason it out. So, do I have all the answers? No. Am I going to look like I'm all put together and perfect? And no, absolutely not. And anybody watching me would go, absolutely not, And I would be horrified if anybody ever said otherwise, because that's what this life is gave to us for, to figure things out. I'm not going to look put together. There are some answers that I've concluded. And if you were to film me with another person, and this person asked this specific question at me that I know I have the answer to, yeah, I would look pretty put together on that. But then if you ask me other questions that I'm still in the process of reasoning out through wisdom, through the Spirit, I might not look so put together on that. And that's fine. Some of us are okay with looking like fools to others. I've been that way my entire life. I've never cared what another person thought of me, except for those that I love. Like, I love deeply, yeah, to some degree. But even that's not going to stop me pursuing the truth, and even looking stupid while I do it. Because it's going to take those of us willing to do that to be able to find the truth. You're not going to find the truth having this perfect looking answer that's been provided by somebody else. I'm sorry, it doesn't. That's not you. It's not the real you, right? It's somebody else. So do I believe in a creator? Yes, I do. I definitely believe that if you want to call that higher power God, and I do, I'll call that higher power God. I also refer to God as a creator, the creator, because I've had too many personal experiences with the Spirit leading me in what you would consider a supernatural way, that in the end just found its way, that it all come and made sense in the end. And it was because I was listening to the Spirit in these supernatural moments that were choosing to teach me things, but only if I was willing to listen. And those were very supernatural moments to me that I can't explain and say, no, there isn't a higher power outside of myself. There is a higher power. And I say outside of myself, but in the Spirit that's leading, that I'm hearing, that's in the blood, that's in, whatever. It there is a higher power speaking. I truly believe that, and I choose to call that power God. There is also this higher power that man chose to shut out of this world. And we're going to look at maybe the sex, because this is important, because this is the narrative that we began to pick up on um, with Adam being the accuser, which we link the name Satan straight back to Adam, the accuser who accused the woman of horrendous things. And now we know why. And it was so that he could steal the host out of her womb, so that they would be taught to bow to a male idol, to a male God, and deny the creator. So it says you denied your creator in the days of your youth. It doesn't say you denied your father, you denied the son, you denied your creator. And father and son, sorry, is not your creator. The creator that was denied, we find when we piece the words, piece it together, or rightly divide the word, we find is actually our mother, or she's also referred to as wisdom. We can prove it. We can prove it. It's you prove it through reasoning. All right. And like I say, you're not always going to have an immediate answer. So we'll take a look here at the word creator. When you punch in Strong's Hebrew creator, you're going to come up with the number 1254, and it means bara. It says bara, and it means to create, shape, or form. Now, here it gives you two ideas of what it means to create. So I'll go over it quickly. I won't read all the notes here. Absolute to create, absolutely to create. Well, woman forming life in her womb is an example of creating, and it's also referred to as the clay that she creates in her womb. It is she, it is not father, and it is not father's hand that does the creating. It is, in fact, she, the creator, mother, and wisdom that does that, and we can prove it by following out specific passages that has to do with this idea of the creator and who the creator and God is in this case. So, qualified to cut down a wood, select, feed as formative processes. So we also get the idea that we also have the idea of a creator who cut down. And the idea is that to form an idol, right? To create an idol. So he's a creator in that sense, if you want to use it that way. So now we're going to go to, let me see here, where we're actually going to pick all of this up. And we'll begin and we'll stop probably at random places. I have no real clear thought here except for these flow of the words that we're following. So this is what the Lord says: do not learn the ways of the nations, or be terrified by the signs in the heavens, though the nations themselves are terrified by them. For the customs of the people are worthless. They cut down a tree from the forest. It is shaped with a chisel by the hand of a craftsman. They adorn it with silver and gold, and they fasten it with hammer and nails, so that it will not totter. So there we get the idea of a creator, a male, these men who created idols, called them God. And now these same nations that come from these men, the first man who was too proud and boastful to receive the law off of the woman's tongue, who was called the creator. The children comes out of her womb. We've established this through hard study. Now we could go into more depth, but we're not gonna. But the nations, these are the nations that come after the fact of the distorting of the truth, and then we're taught to bow to these idols that man create, right? So we get a creator here in a sense, but he's not the creator in the larger picture of creating and laying out the heavens. The creator there is in fact female, and also the one that gets denied in the whole process. So the nations here are the idolatrous nations that we're talking about that come out of her womb after he steals the host out of her womb, after the accusation, after the false accusation, and he accuses her, right? So it was an accusation by Satan, by man. So we get Satan's seed against the woman's seed. Satan's seed is fallen man's accusation that put him in charge because she goes silent. And that brought in the controversy of Zion. And the controversy of Zion is man divided the pleasant land. The pleasant land is identified as a woman, also encompassing the earth in spirit, the earth, Mother Earth, right? You divided my pleasant land. So then we end up with these nations. We get nations on this side that's bowing to man as if he's Lord and God, that accuser who accused the woman of things that she didn't do, but then she had no defense. She couldn't defend herself because she went silent in this deep mourning process where she couldn't believe what he had done, that he had accused her after he claimed to love her. And then we have the woman's seed. And the woman's seed is where the righteous nations will eventually come from. So we have this division going on, which is your controversy of Zion, all right? But before all of that, she has to present her case. And the only way she can present her case is that she has to produce the nations that follows the truth. That's, in fact, how she ends up presenting her case. So we looked at the controversy of Zion. All right. We also looked at the term like the abomination of desolation and many, many other terms. So if you haven't been here with us, then you may be a little confused. I suggest you go back. And along the way, we kept looking at Jesus. We kept throwing in Jesus and whatnot into everything that we had learned. And over time, we recognized that Jesus himself actually became a standing idol put in place by Baal that ends up being a yoke on woman's neck. So I had a commenter say to me once, well, if uh, you believe in Jesus, ye are free indeed. And I was like, well, if you're a man, maybe you're free. Meanwhile, us women still have to carry this yoke and supposedly listen to man or our husbands because he's our head, because our head is worthless, you say. And all of this stuff. And it goes on and on and on. No, you're free. You're free. You're a man. You can do what you want. You've had your rights handed to you. And then you're told you're my head. The arrogance and pride that it takes to think that and to believe that. Man, you are like your father, Satan, aren't you? You are proud and you are boastful, right? So, it's a really involved process where we had to begin to separate um, the different topics where they belonged. So while Jesus presents this good image of a man that man should want to be like and should want to follow, the true image is not of a man that yokes a woman under a man. It's actually of one that frees her from all these man-made laws and bondages. And then we get Isaiah 52. Pick thyself up out of the dust of the earth, dear daughter of Zion, and take back your throne. Take back what rightfully belongs to you. And that is your house. That is the children. And that is them hearkening to her law, which is in why it takes us to Isaiah 54. Yet more are the children of the desolate than if she who has a husband. She who has a husband was Baal. She's just no different than him. She's his rib. She's handing her house over to him. And in the process, the righteous spirit, the righteous daughters become desolate without children hearkening to her law, which then takes us to the term, the abomination of desolation. And we're going to hit it in one of these chapters here, or the abomination, actually, what causes that abomination. And it comes to the abomination of desolation in this mysterious term then that gets thrown around because man kept developing his own religion of himself and how he was basically in love with his own image and how he furthered the deception to the woman. So the abomination of desolation is basically a term meaning a man in love with his own image. And like I say, we are going to hit it in one of these passages. Now, whether we actually get to it today, I don't know, but we will keep picking up the study. So we may, like I say, end at maybe some even awkward times, but that's fine. All right, that's fine. We're going to allow ourselves to do that. We're going to allow ourselves to maybe even get our hands a little dirty before we can wash them clean in the truth. That's what we have to do. All right. We're not always going to look so perfect and put together like some people think they are all the time. I guess they walk around with this pride that they're so perfect. And also, you know, I forgot to add this in. It takes us to Isaiah 14, of course, when we're in Isaiah 52, take back thy throne, dear daughter of Zion. Take the yoke off of your neck and take back the throne that belongs to you. Then we see him, Satan, Adam, um, you know, exalting himself to her throne. And we see you are nothing more than a man. Who is this that caused the nations to shake? Man, a man caused the nations to shake, right? In fear of this made up God, an image of a man. And it is made up. And he's called Satan there, yet he's also called nothing more than a man who exalted himself to her throne of power, which was the right to write the law over her own creation. It comes out of her own womb. Now we'll establish the creator and that it is she when we zero in on, yes, and you do have to pick and choose because when you're looking at a particular topic, you have to go find all verses that relates to that particular topic. You do. So, and then that leads you to the little book sealed up. In the end, you find out it is a little book of truth sealed up, and that man wrote a whole pile of lies, a whole pile of dung, right, to dirty you, to make it so much harder for you to rightly divide the word to find the truth. So we'll begin here in Isaiah 44 is where we're going to begin. So yet now hear, O Jacob, no, O Israel, my servant, Israel's the servant, whom I have chosen. Thus saith the Lord that made thee and formed thee from the womb. It's not he that forms you from the womb. She will help you. Do not fear, not Jacob. Israel, my servant, I have chosen you. Jeshurun. For I will pour water upon her that is thirsty. This takes us to Isaiah 55. Come to my waters. Dear daughter, drink the truth freely. You are not washed in blood. You are washed in my pure water, my pure words. Takes us to Isaiah 4:4. And now I have to go already because my husband chose to show up early today. Okay, so we will pick this study up again at another time. And thanks for watching. And I hope you're all blessed with a lovely day. And thanks again.